your daily dose of sports and fun. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
Good morning with Chris Snead, who's in for Jamie Lent this morning. I'm Chuck Heinz. Hey, tomorrow we're going to have I think it's going to be a real treat. I'm looking forward to it. Tomorrow at 8:15, Mark Fewen's going to join us. And basically, he represents Texas Tech from an ownership standpoint of the South End Zone project. And so he's the guy that makes reports to the Board of Regents on the progress of it, and also of the Womble football facility that's being constructed there in the South End Zone. The reconstruction tore down the old one; they're building a new one that's massive.
He's also one of my bosses.
He's on the Texas Tech Alumni Association board,
and specifically on the vice chair of the facilities committee.
Okay, well, so that's
yeah.
But he'll kind of give us some highlights of the South End Zone and maybe some things to expect and what's going on. Obviously, a massive project. I'm fascinated just from an engineering standpoint, and I'm certainly no engineer because it requires a lot of math. But when you look at the history of Jones Stadium, going back to its very beginning, and then what had to take place for Texas Tech to get into the Southwest Conference in terms of stadium capacity and digging out the bowl and moving the east stands in. The east stands are a little bit closer to the field than the west stands.
Actually, they moved the east stands out. But they brought them closer to the field.
Yeah, they brought them closer to the field. But anyway,
the lower bowl portion.
Yeah. At any rate, the whole thing's fascinating to me. And then, the replacement of the press box and the additions of what you've seen from the club on both the east and west side, and then obviously the north end zone and what that project entailed in terms of the old Letterman's Lounge and what you have now, and then now the south end zone and that project. So it's all. I'm all very curious. I'm also extremely curious, and I don't know if he'll be able to give us the answer or has the answer or wants to, but I'm curious as to whose idea it was, because I think it was brilliant to just replicate the Double T scoreboard there in the south end zone. And remember, that thing has only been up. It had only been up about 40 years. It wasn't like there forever from day one. Okay.
No, but
it's iconic, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm curious as to who said, well, you know what? Let's just duplicate the doggone thing because that's what everybody wants. That's what everybody talks about. It's a no-brainer decision, but somebody had to think of that.
I don't think it was rocket science. I'm fairly certain it came down to, hey, do you think we can ask a scoreboard company to make one just like it? I mean,
because here's the deal: all the renderings that I had seen of the south end zone of the picture, it didn't look like the old Double T. It looked like a modernized version of it. But somebody at some point in time said what you just said. Hey, I wonder if the scoreboard company, if we just give them pictures of this thing, can you just make us another one just like this, only bigger?
And that was, I thought there was a little bit of misplaced or manufactured anger over that. I mean, it was as if like we can never do this again. We've got this scoreboard. It was only made once. It was made one time. We can never make it again if we tear this one down.
Mm-hmm.
I was always from the start, why can't you just make another one just like it? And then when Kirby said we're going to make another one just like it, I was like, okay, someone figured out you can make another one just like it.
Yeah. Well, it makes a lot of sense. But sometimes, though, Chris, and you know this, sometimes stuff that is Captain Obvious doesn't get done. Sometimes businesses or people, when it's right there in front of them, like, okay, the path of least resistance, the best available decision, the best thing you can do is X, and you go, nah, I can make the wheel a whole lot better. The caveman was wrong.
I can tell you one situation that had to do with the Alumni Association. Right after we opened the Fraser Alumni Pavilion, and a couple years after that, we changed our name from the Ex-Students Association to the Texas Tech Alumni Association. Well, one of the arguments for not doing that was, well, all of our stuff says ex-Students Association on it, especially in the Fraser where we had a big giant seal that was over the fireplace. And so, I mean, the little idiot facilities guy in the back, I said, why don't we just put the dates of that around it? So now if you walk in, it says 1927 to 2002 for the Ex-Students Association, and it makes total sense. And do you feel any different about it now? Yeah.
No.
It's like, it doesn't have to be that hard. Let's just put we were the Ex-Students Association from here to here. Acknowledge that time.
But sometimes we as humans, we as individuals, we complicate things.
Yeah, I think we have to make things harder than it has to be. The folks that said, well, we've got to take that and put the scoreboard back up. Well, why don't we just make a newer, more modern version that we don't have to fill with concrete and have to have 6 engineers and electricians stand there with a roll of wire, chewing gum, and duct tape every week and crossing their fingers to make sure the thing stays on.
Yeah. So anyway, that's coming tomorrow at 8:15. Here's a question off the Yates Flooring Center chat line. I cannot answer this question because it may have already taken place, because I think it kind of has. When can current men's basketball season ticket holders upgrade their seats?
I think that's already taken place.
Yeah, I do too.
I think.
Did you stand pat with your seats?
Actually went down.
You went down?
Yeah,
what do you mean?
I had 4 upper-level seats. I went down to 2.
You went down to 2?
Yeah, because I never used them.
Yeah, I got you.
I was paying for 2 and literally never using them. I was trying as hard as I could to find someone to give those extra 2 tickets away to.
Mm-hmm. Well, you don't have to worry about that now.
I don't. I mean, somebody else can sit in those seats.
Good for you. Well, we stood pat with ours. I'd like to get to the lower bowl, but there's we're upstairs, and it's pretty easy. I mean, you go right down the stairs. Bathrooms right there. Concessions right there. We're kind of right near the stairs in terms of the aisle, so it's not. I like sitting upstairs because you can see the whole play develop.
Yeah. There's
sometimes I think that I'd like for Fink and I to sit upstairs for the women, just because you can see it. But the problem is you don't get the interaction with the officials and get the explanation.
This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Today is May the 30th, 2024. One more day left in the year. And with this day in sports history is Chris Snead.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you to the Academy. It is May 30th in the year of our Lord.
2024.
2024. Everyone, guess what? We're all going to make it.
Minds are wrong. They've been wrong for quite some time.
Absolutely. We're going to keep the bit going, though. All right. I hold to you in my currently nicotine-stained fingers this day in sports. On this day, Chuck, 1922, the Cubs and Cardinals, fierce rivals, trade outfielders between morning and afternoon games of a doubleheader. Max Flack goes to St. Louis. Cliff Heathcote goes to Chicago. Both get hits for the new club in the nightcap.
I love that. I love those kinds of stories.
There are the great stories of people getting traded for stuff.
Yeah.
Remember when we were remember that the Lubbock cricket player that we traded from Alexandria for a case of catfish?
No, I don't.
Kent Craneville.
Okay.
Yeah. And came to Lubbock. Interesting cat. 1935, Philadelphia pitcher Jim Bivin retires Babe Ruth on an infield grounder. The Babe's final MLB at bat. Ruth plays just 1 inning for the Boston Braves in an 11-6 loss to the Phillies at the Baker Bowl. He was old. All right, 1953, the first Major League Network baseball game. Cleveland beat Chicago. I'm assuming the White Sox, 7-2.
Who did it say who the announcers were?
Did not.
Okay.
1961, and on this, the 50th Indianapolis 500. A.J. Foyt takes the lead with 3 laps to go to win for his first of 4 Indy 500 victories by a margin of 8.28 seconds. Do you know who he beat?
No, I don't.
Eddie Sachs. 1971, Willie Mays hits his 638th career home run, sets the National League record of 1,950 runs scored. He was prolific. 1986, Barry Bonds, when he was still skinny, makes his Major League Baseball debut for the Pittsburgh Pirates. His head size was probably only 6 7/8 that day.
Are you still Billy Bitter over Barry Bonds?
Nope.
Is he the home run king?
Yes.
Okay.
2014 is if you're going to keep him out, take out all the pitchers who are juicing also.
Sure. Right. Gotcha. 2014,
20. Let's see. Sorry, hang on. Let me start that all over again. In 2014, 2014, Chuck.
Okay.
The number 23 Texas Tech Red Raider baseball team defeats Columbia 3-2. Why was that significant?
That puts him in Super Regional?
No, it was in the first round of the NCAA Coral Gables Regional Tournament. The senior left-handed pitcher Johnny Droz was 7-0, and he gets the win, going pitching 3 2/3 scoreless innings to end the game while allowing just 2 hits with a strikeout. They would come back and they would beat who next?
Florida?
Miami. They would beat Miami, then they would lose twice, and they would come back and they would win, and they would beat Miami to go on to the Super Regional, where they would end up in Omaha. Do you know what you get if you add 2 ounces of bourbon over crushed ice with muddled mint and simple syrup, Chuck?
Mint julep?
That is mint julep, and it is mint julep day. Enjoy one for yourself. Born on this day, Idina Menzel. Do you know how old she is?
72.
53. CeeLo Green. How old is he?
52.
48. Winona Judd. How old is she?
52.
59. Harrison Barnes. How old is he?
52.
32. Manny Ramirez.
52.
52, Chuck. Billy Donovan.
He's 59.
He is 59. Chuck, 2 out of 6 ain't bad. You could go to the Hall of Fame. All right, dead on this day, still dead. Bob Talamini. He's an American football guard. He played in Super Bowl III for the New York Football Jets. He was first-team All-AFL, 6-time AFL All-Star. Also played with the Houston Oilers. He dies today in 2022 at the age of 83 years old.
He played for the Jets in Super Bowl III?
He sure did.
What was his name again?
Bob Talamini.
Okay, don't remember him.
Okay, 1971, Chuck. The U.S. unmanned space probe Mariner 9 is launched on a mission to gather scientific information on Mars. This first spacecraft to orbit the planet other than Earth, Mariner 9 sent back more than 7,000 pictures of the red planet and succeeded in photographing the entire planet. Mariner 9 also sent back the first close-up images of the Martian moon.
Love it. Are you a space guy?
I am a space guy. I like space. I like astronomy. I don't get into all the weird stuff that goes with astronomy, but I do like looking at constellations. I think they're fun and interesting.
Boeing's Starliner is going to blast off. I think it's going to be. It was originally scheduled for May the 6th. Then it got pushed back. Now it's scheduled to go up at 11:25 our time on Saturday from what they now call Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Florida. Okay. Yeah, I look forward to seeing a man on the moon again. I think that'll be cool.
Yeah, that'll be. Did you watch the series For All Mankind?
I don't know that I've seen For All Mankind.
It's on Apple TV, and I think you should watch it. If you're a space guy, it's basically an alternate reality.
It's not real?
It's an alternate reality deal. It takes the facts that happen, but just alters them just a touch.
Yeah, I don't like that kind of stuff.
No. It's actually fascinating, Chuck. I think you would get it because
but it's
touches,
not real.
No, but it touches on all the things that you love to see.
I know.
But
it's science fiction.
No, it's not. It is actually it's alternate reality because and I'm not going to spoil it for you.
Okay.
But the entire concept of the show
Does Jim Lovell get to walk on the moon?
Jim Lovell's not in it, but we do get to walk on the moon. I'm not going to spoil it. Okay. One thing, Chuck, do it. I'll tell you after this.
All right, this is time for our lucky local winning word here at 6:51 this morning. It's brought to you by Double T 97.3 and the Home Zone, making your house a home. Okay, we're going to give away $500 today, so you want to go to doublet973.com and enter this word. The word is Mavericks. Mavericks.
Ooh.
Mavericks. Mavericks is your lucky local winning word this morning.
I'm assuming Mavericks, Dallas Mavericks, not UT Arlington.
It does not specify. All you're required to do is enter word Mavericks.
Nice.
Okay. There have been a number of times with this promotion that I've tried to spell words differently.
Don't do it.
Like Broncos, spelling it D-O-N-K. EYS. Jamie's not allowed that. I tried yesterday. You weren't with me yesterday. I wanted to spell wizards Bullets. I failed it. I just when you recreate stuff like that, I just hate it. It's like the other day, I was watching, and I think what made me mad was I watched my one NBA game because daughter number 2 was in town, and she's a big Mavericks fan.
Yeah,
and they had some kind of historical fact about the Washington Wizards, okay? But it was when the Wizards were the Bullets. But they had in there from like 1980, they called them the Wizards.
They weren't.
I hate that.
They were the
Bullets. It's like Bob Feller didn't pitch for the Guardians, he pitched for the Indians.
Yes.
Curtis Jordan didn't play for the Redskins. He played for the Redskins, not the Commanders.
Or the Washington football team.
Okay?
I kind of like that bet. I wish they would go back to the Washington football team. I really do. I actually really kind of enjoyed just calling them the football team.
Okay. By the way, the Mavericks and the Timberwolves play tonight in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Dallas leads the series 3-1. Are you interested in this series?
I am. I have watched not a complete game, but I have watched more of this now, and I'm starting to get to that point where I get myself interested. Mm-hmm. If the Mavericks get to the finals, I will probably watch full game probably around game 3.
Remember the last time that we all kind of gathered as a group? I mean, that sports bar is no longer
existent. Yes, no longer existent. And we watched them.
We all went together, all of us.
Yeah, we all sat there.
And like watched a game 7 of an NBA Finals.
And that's about the time I say that's usually when I turn on the game.
I know, when somebody's about to get eliminated.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. No, I got you. I'm kind of with you. I still don't like the style of play of the NBA.
You don't have to watch the entire game. You just need to watch the last 2 minutes. That's all you really got to watch.
The Morning Drive podcast from Double T 97.3 is presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Chris and I are here on the location at the Lubbock Civic Center where today the Expo Lubbock will take place. It's the business expo that the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce annually puts on. Doors open at 11 o'clock this morning to the public, and it'll take place until 4 o'clock this afternoon. So if you want to spend your lunch hour down here milling around, talking to people, seeing the different booths and the exhibitors and what they have to offer and connecting with maybe folks that you haven't seen in quite some time, that'll be great. Look forward to seeing you down here today. And again, doors open to the Lubbock Memorial Civic Center at 11 o'clock this morning. They'll have a ribbon cutting at 10:45. All right, so we're talking about this Major League Baseball story where they're merging records from the 7 Negro Leagues to Major League Baseball. Here's the question that I have. Is I wonder if you could go back and ask the greats from the Negro Leagues, Josh Gibson, Satchel Paige, Buck O'Neil, people along those lines. Given that they were excluded and discriminated against and basically said, because of the color of your skin, you can't play Major League Baseball in this organization. Yeah. Would they have wanted their records to be merged in, or would they say, I'm proud that I played for the Negro Leagues. I'm proud that I played for fill-in-the-blank team, whatever city that they were in. I'm proud that I was a member of the Indianapolis Clowns or whatever, Kansas City Monarchs or whatever. I appreciate what you're doing, but I didn't get to do that. But I'm proud of where I was, and I'm proud of what I did. And I don't want my record as a Negro League player to be necessarily expunged or be diminished because it's now being merged into Major League Baseball. I don't want those records to go away.
I think there's probably a camp of players that have that sentiment.
Or that would. They're for the most part, the Negro League players are all, for the most part, deceased.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that being the case. But I think if you were to go back and ask them, I think there would be a camp that says, no, I want my records to be Negro League records only. And I do think that there would be a camp that says, I would want my records to be merged with Major League Baseball, the quote-unquote best players out there, and just see where I stacked up against those guys, even though, you didn't play against those guys. And I think there's probably a big middle section that doesn't care.
Of players or just people?
The players that don't care.
I guess part of it for me is it's not a black-white thing as much as it is a history thing for me, because it changes orders of things. It changes. I don't know that it changes how you look at any one player differently or not. And I agree with you. The level of competition would have changed dramatically for some of these white players that played. And remember, I think there were guys that were. Well, I don't know this for a fact. Like Mexican, Venezuelan, Cuban, that were playing in Major League Baseball before blacks were playing in Major League Baseball.
Well, yeah, that is true, and there are several that played in the Negro leagues as well, and it was about access and what you could get access to. Now, the first thing that people are saying is that how accurate are the stats? Were the record keeping?
Yeah, the box scores, things like that.
Yeah, were those box scores as accurate? And I think that they're as accurate as in the 20s. If you want to go back to the 20s, you're kind of depending on that one guy that was out there. Did he see what he saw? And the official.
You could say the same thing about Major League
Absolutely.
Baseball. Major League Baseball too.
Yeah, and here's the other part of this. You can't operate in a vacuum and think that every Negro League player would have been in Major League Baseball. And, the same way you would say that if Negro League players would force some of those players that were playing in Major League Baseball at that time to not be there. Because, a certain segment of that group would have been in Major League Baseball, which means that some of those players that were at the bottom of Major League Baseball, who Ty Cobb and Babe Ruth were getting some of their stats off of, wouldn't have been there.
Yeah. I guess the thing that just, being exposed a little bit to it in Kansas City from listening to Buck O'Neil or listening to guys like Satchel Paige, they took great pride. They took great and should have, but they wore their Negro League playing days and their, lack of a better word, alumni or their history. They wore that with great pride. They weren't embarrassed by that, and I don't think they ever. I'm sure at some point. I'm sure probably when they were playing, they felt somewhat diminished because they weren't allowed in places. But heck, you've got plenty of stories in this town of people that weren't allowed in places, or that were looked down on, and it's all wrong. And I don't know if Major League Baseball is trying to right a wrong. I don't think they're trying to maybe smooth anything over. I don't know what the first goal was for this.
I don't know either. And it was I'm glad it happened. I'm ecstatic that it happened, because now you get to see how those records integrate with, no pun intended, integrate with the traditional Major League.
I hope they don't do away with the Negro League records.
I think it's interesting. Would you have a category just for Negro League stats and then just for Major League?
You already have them.
Yeah, I know you do, but I think if you're gonna integrate them, then you probably need to just do away with the other stats.
And see, here's the thing that's interesting to me is and you always point this out. In Canton, Ohio, it's not the NFL Hall of Fame; it's the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and professional football has done a pretty good job of that over the years. Remember, they had a black head coach way like in the 40s or 50s. Way before anybody else did. And I'm not applauding them for their integration, but I'm just saying that they never distinguished between the two because there wasn't two. Okay, so there's one player. And there's more than one, because these records are from 1920 that they looked at to 1948, and Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in 1947. That didn't just open up the floodgates, though, because Jackie Robinson obviously faced a lot of opposition, and Larry Doby was the first Black American League baseball player, and he too faced a lot of discrimination from his own teammates and cities that they went to. But there's one player, there's more than one, but there's one that's going to be the most famous, whose records from the Negro Leagues won't be morphed into or merged into Major League Baseball. You want to take a wild guess?
I had 3 guesses,
okay,
and I think it's Hank Aaron.
It is Hank Aaron.
Okay.
It is Hank Aaron.
Yeah, okay.
Do you know me? You know, it's funny because I think if you stand on the corner of 6th and Avenue Q and go, hey, how many home runs did Babe Ruth have? And everybody's going to say 714. I think you're going to have, but the number of Hank Aaron doesn't necessarily roll off your tongue like that. You remember how many Hank had?
755.
755. You know how many Barry Bonds had?
Is 783, 786?
762.
762?
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it would, because what did he hit? He only played like 20-something games.
So here's.
He would, let me am I getting this wrong here? I think he hit 6 home runs.
His last year?
Well, it's total. Because he only played like 20-something games. Is that right?
Who?
Hank.
Oh, in the Negro Leagues?
Yeah.
He hit 5.
Yeah, I was going to say, he only hit like 5 or 6 home runs.
Yeah, he hit 5.
So that would change the numbers.
It would change. So now you go back to your record keeping, okay?
Yeah.
So Hank Aaron had 755 in Major League Baseball, 5 in the Negro Leagues. Okay, what if somebody missed 2?
Exactly.
What if somebody missed 3?
Exactly. What if you have a Mr. Baseball situation where there was a rain out and they counted the stats and they shouldn't have?
And so here's the reason. The reason is because Aaron played. His numbers were in 1952.
Yeah.
It was 5 years after the color barrier and was broken, and so they felt like that the Negro Leagues, the talent pool had been diminished, and so the line of demarcation is 1948. All right.
The Morning Drive podcast from Double T 97.3 is presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Jamie's question of the day on Double T 97.3, presented today by someone not named Jamie, is brought to you by Connecticut of West Texas.
All right, gentlemen, we looked yesterday at the Texas Tech football win streak for the upcoming season compared to previous seasons under head coach Joey McGuire. So today, we're going to do the opposite of this. In the last 2 seasons under your head coach, you have lost 2 games in a row, or 2 games back-to-back, twice. In 2023, it was Wyoming and Oregon to start the season, and then Kansas State and BYU later in the year. 2 teams that you're not playing this year. Last year, or I guess the year before, you lost 2 games twice with Kansas State and Oklahoma State, and then BYU and TCU. So my question is, it's a 2-parter. Does Texas Tech lose 2 games in a row this year? And if they do lose 2 games in a row this year, what 2 games will those be?
You want to go first?
Mine's probably the easier of the answers here.
Are you going to say no?
I'm going to say, well, I'm on record as saying that I can make an argument for us winning every game on the schedule. So
I asked Rob Breaux about that yesterday, and he didn't disagree with you.
Okay. I didn't say that we would lose no games. That's what
I know.
I just want to make sure, because every time I hear that,
I know.
Someone walks up to me and says, "I heard you say we're going to win 12 games this year." No, didn't say that.
Remember, people only hear about half of what you tell them.
Exactly,
including you.
Okay.
You only hear about half. No,
fair enough. Fair enough.
We suffer from the same disease.
Fair enough. I'm going to say no. So that, I guess that gets an NA for the second answer.
No. The second answer still needs to be answered. It's if there were 2 games, what would they be?
If there were 2 games, don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
It's a 2-part question.
If there were 2 games, oh gosh, I don't see them. Abilene Christian, Washington State, North Texas. If there were 2 games.
Oh, come on, man. It's low-hanging fruit.
What's low-hanging about it?
I'll tell you here in a second. Go ahead.
I mean, I don't see it.
You don't see 2 games?
I don't see 2 games in a row that I'd say, yeah, if it's these 2. If it was any 2 games, I'd say Iowa State was involved with it.
Okay.
Maybe if it's 2 games in a row, West Virginia, Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes, Jeff, and I'm going to say Oklahoma State and West Virginia. You're going to lose your last 2 games.
Wow. Well, I hope you're bowl eligible by then.
I do too. I mean,
I just don't see this team losing at home this year.
well, I hope that's the case. The question I have is, it's always going to be the question that you have is, what's the healthier football team at the end of the season?
Sure.
I mean, look, the 2 places that have been really hard for you to win, at Iowa State and at Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm high on Oklahoma State. I think they're going to have a really good season. I think they're going to be in the Big 12 championship game. I think that Oklahoma State game, West Virginia game, that 2-pack there could be that'll be the difference between an okay season and a great season. Because if you win those 2 games, I'm feeling really good about the rest of that football season.
Okay.
For the most part. Jeff?
I don't think you're losing to West Virginia at home, so that eliminates the Oklahoma State-West Virginia 2-game stretch. I also don't think you're losing to Colorado at home, so that covers the last 3 games of that little window there. If Texas Tech is going to lose 2 games, and I think they will, only because you've done it both years under Joey McGuire, and that would be the TCU-Iowa State games, both of them on the road. Being back-to-back would be the 2 I would pick. I don't think you're losing to North Texas, so that eliminates any Washington State, North Texas where I would have, or Arizona State. I don't think you'd lose both Arizona and Baylor back-to-back, especially with Baylor being at home. So if you were to lose 2, it's TCU and Iowa State back-to-back.
Okay. Chris, why do you think this team has struggled so much under Coach McGuire? And it's not just him on the road; it's other coaches too. Do you think it's more about the quality of the opponent? Because that's what I think, as opposed to routine or how they're doing things, or the stadium environment, or just playing away from Jones Stadium.
I think it just breaks down to the simple fact that winning road games is hard, and it gets appreciably harder. Your depth gets exposed on the road. You know, I mean, an injury factor into that. You want to know, like, teams like Bama and Georgia and Tennessee, and the teams that win 10 games, why they're so good on the road? It's because they can run that first 11 out at you and be good. If someone struggles, they can take that guy off. They can plug another guy that's just as good as him in that spot. If that guy struggles, they can plug another guy that's just as good as that guy. You know, their first 33 on one side of the ball are really,
offense or defense. Yeah.
They're really, really good, and they can keep running that out at you and just running wave after wave after wave of talent. This guy might be rattled. This guy might not be. And this guy over here is injured. We plug this guy in. If you're let's just say, like what we are, we're a 7-5 program going on the road. If Plan A fails, Plan A gets rattled, Plan A gets injured, the guy replacing him isn't nearly as good. And you just have, and it's easy for you get that, not bunker mentality, but just shrivel up and wither away mentality on the road when you don't have the guy behind you that's just as good as you.
I think you make a great point there. You know, because I don't know that it's about routine, because coaches will try to change up the routine a little bit. They'll say, okay, today we're not going to do it this way, or this road trip we're going to go in early, or we're going to go in later, or we're going to have our pregame. We're going to walk the field. Or we're not going to walk the field. That's kind of the way it works for football. For basketball, sometimes your routine is dictated by what time the game is.
Absolutely.
So for instance, like for the Lady Raiders, if we're playing a noon game, all right, probably not shooting in the morning.
Yeah.
If we're playing an evening game, we're going to have a practice in the morning. And Coach Gerlich has said at times, hey, this is not just come out here and get some shots up. We're going to practice. We're going to get the blood flowing. We're going to work on plays. We're going to work on stuff. But then there's been times when they've kind of changed up the routine. But I think you're right. It's depth of player, it's quality of player, and it's overcoming that road environment, so to speak, that you've got to block out the noise.
Absolutely.
And you just got to focus in on, hey, that's the court's X number of feet long, or the yards are 100 yards, the same as it is at home.
Your daily dose of sports and fun. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Chris Snead is in for Jamie. I'm Chuck Heinz. Great to have you with us today. We're here on location at the Lubbock Memorial Civic Center in downtown Lubbock, or just on the north edge, as we get you ready for the Business Expo, which will take place today at 11. I don't understand why they're not opening this thing until 11, but I'm not in those meetings. I'm not involved in that decision. I mean, if it were me, I'd open it up at 9 a.m. Heck, I'd open it up at 8 a.m.
It would be open now.
I would open it up at 7 a.m. and
Chuck,
let people that were on their way to work come down here and shake hands and kiss babies and
see Chuck and have
some coffee. See the clown show that we've got. And we'll throw tomatoes at it. We'll put up some chicken wire and all that kind of stuff. That's what I would do, because it takes an awful lot of effort to get all these booths set up, get everybody set up, get everybody in place, and the window is not very long. Okay. So
that was not a
gunshot.
I'm not ducking under my chair or anything.
We all
like that.
know, because Scottie was a Longhorn, Chuck would slander him. And if it was Pat, he would pander and say Pat was in the right.
Oh,
False.
Yeah. Okay.
Here we go. It's just the way it is, right? Sorry, Chuck, but if pro athletes stop for anyone who tells them to, we'd have a lot of issues. If he's not clearly and obviously marked, a yellow slicker can be bought by any stalker. I wouldn't stop either. I mean, there was only like 50,000 lights and sirens because a guy got killed right a few feet away from where they were trying to get people in and out. If I've seen other golfers not stop and told to go ahead, this was a failure of the PD and an overzealous respect my authority detective. Look, there's wrong on both sides.
I mostly agree with the texter. I think that I don't think it was a respect my authority. I think there was a misunderstanding. I think there was a colossal misunderstanding, which we'll address a text here about that in a minute. In fact, why don't you go ahead and read that one so we can address it.
So Snead now thinks the PGA outranks the police on the scene, kind of like the announcers outrank the officials on the football field.
Well, no. First, thanks for the thinly veiled shot, and no announcers.
There was a compliment too there.
No, there wasn't. That was not a compliment. That was not a compliment.
There was tongue in cheek.
There wasn't tongue in cheek in there.
Okay.
There was mean spirit in that.
Okay.
And most. I'm going to say that because I got a lot of friends that are announcers. No, I don't.
One too.
No, I'm not.
Oh.
I'm a guy that talks on the radio.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm not an announcer.
Okay. Right.
I don't. You're an announcer.
Okay.
You're a color commentator, and Mark Fichtner is an announcer, and
Jamie Lent,
Jamie and Hacks and
Gus.
All these guys are announcers.
Choice.
Yeah. I don't think the PGA outranks the police.
Nobody said that.
But thanks for putting words in my mouth. I said this was a misunderstanding between the PGA and the Louisville Police Department, and because they didn't communicate together doesn't make it Scottie Scheffler's fault. That does not sound anything like the PGA outweighs the police on the scene.
Right. End of story?
For me, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, if our texter wants to continue the conversation, please send another text, and we'll address it as well.
And for me, I mean, I couldn't care less that Scottie Scheffler was a Longhorn. And I'm not going to, if Mahomes had done something wrong along this lines, I would have said something. So anyway, the bottom line is, it's just because somebody went to one school over another doesn't play into this factor for me. I think the position where this happened also plays into the factor of dropping charges, from video, no dragging of officer is shown, and the officer ran and hit his car with the flashlight at the entry gate. Of course, not all the video is shown because, the cars were blocking it, and the guy didn't turn on his video cam on his his body cam. So, I mean, he violated his own department's policy.
Yeah, he did.
You know, he violated his own department's policy. So.
There was wrong on both sides, 100%. And think about the situation. There's a fatality. It's raining.
It's dark.
It's dark. There's a rerouting. There's information that's not getting sent from point A to point B.
There's a guy trying to get to the golf course to work out.
Yeah.
He's the number one player in the world.
Yeah.
He hasn't played in a couple of weeks because his wife had a baby. There's a lot to be considered.
And all that adds up to the perfect storm for this situation, and everyone's looking to place blame on somebody. It's got to be somebody's fault because this is a blame somebody society that we live in, and no one can just accept that. Hey, you know what? Something happened. It was a bad situation. We got to blame somebody.
Yeah.
We're going to blame the cop. We're going to blame Scottie Scheffler.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, now that we've dropped all the charges, who's going to explain to Scottie Scheffler's kid why he's wearing an orange jumpsuit for doing exactly what he was told to do?
Yeah.
When his kid asks that question 10 years from now.
Yeah. 8:20 this morning here on the morning drive. Thoughts, comment. I want to give you something else to maybe get irritated about. Okay.
Is it me or the listening audience?
Maybe potentially both of you.
But you're going to say it because it's going to irritate me?
No. I don't think it's going. I don't know if it's going to irritate you. You may be surprised that this is actually a thing.
Oh boy. Okay.
Okay. You may be surprised that this is actually a thing. 8:21 this morning here on the morning drive. Because I could have sworn that I've seen this on the football field at Jones Stadium. With expenses going up following the $2.8 billion House versus the NCAA lawsuit settlement.
Mm-hmm.
This is from CBS Sports.
Yeah.
Schools are going to be looking for new ways to raise revenue, right?
Yeah.
One potential source of that is field/court naming rights and sponsored patches, according to one Southeastern Conference athletic director.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Strickland of Florida says, I believe the NCAA is going to allow us to put a sponsored logo on the field during the regular season. That's an obvious revenue stream we have not had in the past. Pro sports are putting patches on jerseys. That doesn't seem like that's something like that's crazy. That doesn't seem like something that's crazy for us to consider.
They've been able to put stuff like that on the field for a long time. We've been playing at Cody Campbell Field for...
Okay, but it's his name. It's not
Double Eagle.
Yeah, it's not Taco Bell or whatever.
Yeah, you can do that.
Here's what they say. The NCAA heavily restricts the use of commercial logos on fields, but a June 6th NCAA committee meeting could change some of those restrictions, according to USA Today.
You can do that if the corporation company is part of the name of the stadium, which is why
Jones AT&T.
Jones AT&T.
Because I was going to say, I could have sworn I'd seen an AT&T logo.
You've seen an AT&T logo because it's part of the name. United Supermarkets Arena, because it's part of the name of the arena. But in just having Joe Blow, fill in the blank business court or fill in the blank business field, you're not able to do that. No, but it seems like we're probably able to do that. There's ways around that. You can't have a permanently affixed logo, but you can have superimposed things on your broadcasts.
Right, but that's what the TV guys. That's the revenue that the TV guys are generating, but that's not revenue that the school's generating.
It depends. No, actually, it is, because if you
it depends on if it's how it goes. It's a third party deal.
Yeah, if it's a third tier right deal, you can do
third tier right deal. But at any rate. Do you have any big issue of putting patches on uniforms or logos on fields that are business related?
Nope.
Because he's right. All these schools are going to try to do anything they can. They're going to NASCAR it up because they've got this shortfall of somewhere around $20 million a year. That they're going to have to pay the athletes.
That's going to be funny when all the athletes have to go start doing commercials for local car washes and things like that. And they say, why do we have to do this? Remember that extra money you wanted? We got to pay for it somehow. So get your tail over to the car wash and start shaking hands and kissing babies. And you'll be doing that every Friday before every football game, by the way.
If you're on the injured list, guess what? You're going to be hosting a tailgate.
This has been the Morning Drive Podcast, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Check out our library of Double T 97.3 podcasts at doublet973.com.